Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are back in the Goblin Caves. This is
You
the
can come pick this
first
up
rat
from
run that I've run
from the
after
section.
the patch. I am in a low-geared cleric,
Just
and
the
we are in the
portion
new and
of the
improved Goblin Caves
this isn't
experience.
picked.
It is substantially changed. Cleric is in a tremendously good spot right now. As a function of the changes to armor and weapons, the store mechanics, Cleric is just incredibly strong. We were strong before the patch. We are stronger now. Um, the reality, though, is that if you do not know the kind of new rooms and layouts that used to be exclusive to High Roller, you've got a little bit of a learning curve here as you get exposed to the same rooms that are now being dynamically inserted into the Classics Goblin Caves experience. So let's take a moment to kind of review some of the changes. Obviously, early in the morning on Wednesday Eastern time, we had a wipe and a
Holy
substantial balancing
shit.
patch, and almost all of that balancing occurred either
Yeah,
directly
open up the
to
portal.
the Ranger class, which had their triple shot
Scanned
ability
the portal
essentially
and I got hit by
changed.
a warlock.
And we
Literally
have
did nothing.
seen a
Cast curse
complete
of pain, and the
rebalancing
second
of
it hit me, it killed
weapons
me.
and
I don't know how that
armor.
works, but whatever.
Generally speaking, this has involved the damage ranges on almost all weapons coming down. It has changed the way stats are included on items, and this is going to shake up the meta considerably. Additionally, there was a whole bunch of changes to Warlock. They've added some new spells, new perks, and they are now gear dependent because knowledge allows them to open additional spell opportunity and additional high level spells. My hot take is that Warlock is still not great. I think yesterday on Zero Gear Cleric, I think I killed 11 Warlocks in 1v1 situations. They're just not nearly as dangerous as the Wizard. So if you're looking for a caster class, I'm going to steer you
Can
towards
just
Wizard.
intense focus skill?
But let's talk about clerics and let's
What is
talk
that?
about Goblin Caves. There has never been a
You
time
use
in
the
Dark and
casting
Darker's
time of
history
the next spell you cast
where
to 0.1
playing the
seconds.
Rat Cleric in the Goblin Caves is more profitable
Oh
than it is
yeah,
right
that
now.
was there before. It was just shit.
My extraction rate yesterday on the runs that I did, I had an 85% extraction rate.
Sounds
I
like it
was
still is
averaging
shit.
1 to 2 fights with
Use
players,
your spells
and I was winning
before
every
you
one of
cast
those
them.
engagements. The biggest change you have to look forward to if you have not played High Roller is these new map segments. Right now, we are in what used to be a High Roller segment, and this was called the Spider area.
Garbage though.
And there's a couple different spawn locations here. I started one in here.
It's just
There are
nether,
more mobs
nether
in
box.
the
That's
quote
all.
unquote high roller modules, so you have
So
to
is
be
it
a little
fast
bit
enough
more
to hold down?
methodical in how you're clearing. You need to play a little bit safer with regard to the PvE, but there's still a lot of opportunity. Now, I'm very familiar with high roller goblin caves, so this is a safe spot over here. I've got 4 or 5 goblins on me. I have run out of the spider area. The circle was closing in on me, and I've moved over here to this safe spot to kind of lick my wounds, buff up, listen to see if there's any other players nearby, and then I'll continue to clear these gobinos. The One of the fundamental changes is now Goblin Caves has 6 exit portals and a 7-player cap. I don't know if this was deliberate, it wasn't in the patch notes, but right now lobbies fill at 7 players, and every one of them has a portal or a hatch. So there is no need to fight over portals. You're pretty much guaranteed an exit if everybody wants to be friends. I do not make friends in the Goblin Caves, not when they could be carrying valuable loots for me. So it is easier to extract. The money is arguably better because of the higher mob density. As long as you're able to safely process the PvE and sustain through the match, you're going to be in a good situation when encountering another player who does not have the sustain advantage of the cleric, which is still incredibly high. So, cleric specific changes in particular. Padded leggings no longer are guaranteed to have 1 will and 1 knowledge. and rawhide gloves are no longer guaranteed to have a 1 will, 1 knowledge. Instead, the leather leggings are now your will option. Padded leggings are your knowledge option. And any gear that rolls with gray or white with a guaranteed stat, that stat now scales with rarity. So if I were to find green leather legs, I should expect to find not 1 will on them, but 2. And then with green, you will see +2 will in addition to what other stat suffixes, affix roll on that gear. This is really good. Right now, I'm opting to run strength gear. I'm coming in with, like, once again, very basic cleric gear. I have a gray spellbook. I have a gray morning star. And I am pumping the strength stat because most of what I'm going to be doing in here is bonking. You know, I'm buffing up, I'm sustaining, I'm looting, and I am killing when I encounter a player. This formula is as profitable as it ever has been, but arguably even more so. Ran a lot of stacked 3-mans last night, and I was able to put together about 1 solid set of gear on my main. That's a ranger. I ran maybe an hour, maybe an hour and a half of goblin caves on my cleric. I was able to put together 3 viable sets of gear in a much smaller amount of time. So in terms of discussing ratting and gold per hour, solo cleric goblin caves is incredibly profitable. Much more so than it has been in the past. And it's always been very good, very consistent, very reliable means of generating that gold. So I hear somebody out here. Pretty sure it's a bard. Gonna buff up and investigate. He may be moving away. He may be waiting in ambush. Either way, I've got my buffs up. I'm ready to go. I've got protection and bless up. Got a little Gabino action. One of the interesting changes, they didn't discuss this in the patch notes yesterday, but it's a direct nerf to the gearing choice of both rogues and rangers. Plus weapon damage now only rolls as an affect on weapons. It no longer rolls on armor pieces. So that's basically removing the meta for both of those classes was to stack plus weapon damage, plus true weapon damage, plus physical damage on those armor pieces, and those stats no longer roll on armor. So we have to kind of change up our approach. I think we're going to end up being more stat-driven, more physical power-based. Those stats obviously still do roll as affects on weapons. There's our bard friend. Not really concerned about these guys. I'm going to judge him to start off. I play this absolutely poorly. This was recorded kind of late in the day after a couple hours of grinding. So I'm playing really poorly. He's playing really well. He dodges a couple of these, bonks. But at the end of the day, like, it's just a stat check, and Cleric wins. And the map tiles that we've discovered so far in this Goblin Caves are very high roller Goblin Caves centric. I'm very familiar with them. This is the same as I think they call this Goblin Town. It's very similar to the kind of cave voluminous area that was in the center of the old, or I should say center western half of the old Goblin Caves encounter. This is a little bit more challenging with regards to verticality. The sightlines aren't as clean. There's a lot more areas to hide, so I'm a little nervous here. I haven't done the math yet about how many people are likely still in the caves. I am, in fact, spoilers, the last person here, so I have actually plenty of time to be continuing clearing, but at the time, in my mind, I'm still used to there being 9 players in the match, not 7. I'm used to there being less portals, so I'm still playing at a heightened paranoia level. There is absolutely nothing for me to worry about at this point. That bard was the last person on the map. So, just to kind of summarize what we've seen change-wise in the Goblin Caves for the Rat Cleric. The map is larger. It is more dense in both treasure and in monsters. There are more portals. there are less players. You are going to encounter less people. You are going to make more money. Your opportunity for extraction is much higher
My fault.
across the board. Even if you're inexperienced on the cleric, I would strongly recommend that you give it a whirl. I recommend judgment. I recommend running blunt weapon mastery as your first perk. Your second perk, I recommend running perseverance, which reduces damage from all sources by 3. Incredibly powerful, and I'm surprised it wasn't changed in the recent patch. I think it may be pound for pound
Rogue.
the best perk in the game. But we made a nice little modest, tidy profit. We're banking our stuff. You can see there I've got accumulated several sets of green gear, all of which are very good, including one
Still
cloak.
make gold with it,
And,
just
it's just off to the
around, but
races.
it is not
If you've
good.
enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. It
Not
helps
good
me a
in
ton, and I wish you good fortune in your
or
raids to
any
come.
type of fighting situation.